All right, you maggots, listen up. I want to tell you something. Everybody has a different skill set. Automatically, you're born with it. Some people become good at music. Some people enjoy music. Other people can actually play it. Others pursue it. Now, what do I mean by skill set? All right, there's these really weird things between different people. Some person, when they view something, uh, one person will view it and get it correctly. Another person saw something else. Right? So the one person has the ability to recall what actually happened. Some people will hear a sound and they can identify what the sound is, where another person can't even locate where the sound's coming from. Everybody's got a different skill set. Now, one of the things that showed up when I was younger was my father couldn't tell a difference between a doorbell buzzer and a bell. And we're sitting there at the kitchen table, and I'm outside ringing the back door and the front door. My poor father could not tell if the front door or the back door, if there was someone at the back door or the front door. He'd always go to the wrong door. That's what the conversation was. Somebody would be outside, forgot their key, or a latch was on the door, so you needed the key and someone inside to undo the latch. And my father just sit there like, no big deal, no big deal. But for us, it was like that's getting wet on the outside. And then one time when he was coming in, I made believe I didn't know which doorbell he was ringing. He didn't think that was funny. But that's how they go through life. But I want to tell you one time I noticed something. And it's sort of like someone will say the Mona Lisa's really smiling. It isn't smiling, type of thing. Now, I had this guy, Bill, he's come into the Radio Shack. And I mentioned that someone in the family, distant relative, had invented the dial on the phone, the one with the numbers where you put your finger in there and you crank it to the right. So 1, 2, 3 to 9. I think it does 0 for operator. And I wanted to see how that mechanism worked inside because I was told by this uncle that someone in the family invented that unit. So this guy come right back in the afternoon. He had the mechanism from a phone. He says, I have a friend that works for a phone company. Here. So he hands me the thing. I give him some money for pizza, a slice, and some a soda. And I'm turning it. You put your finger in a plastic mechanism. You guys, some of you have never seen these things. You put your finger in there, and you dial to the right. If you go do it 3, there's a thing that spins, and it taps out 3 pulses. So I get a sound alert, which is Mallory unit. It's an oscillator audio unit. You hook it to a 9-volt battery, and you hook it up to this thing. So you dial 1, and it goes beep. Every time you dial 1, beep. You dial 2, beep, beep. So you think, that's pretty good. So now you do 3, beep, beep, beep. Right? 4, beep, 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 beep. Now 5, I can't even do it with my mouth. So I had the one guy dialing the numbers, and I couldn't tell a 7 from an 8 or a 9. But the code guys, the guys that have the ability to do Morse code, some of them just pick up real quick. That's 9, that's 8. And they come in the store, and I had this thing, and I said to them, you know Morse code? Yeah, okay. I take this unit out, and I wouldn't let them see what number. Put my finger in 8, but that's 8 pulses. How the hell are they doing that? They have a skill. Now, certain skills, by a certain age, if you do it young enough, you can develop skills. And that's why somebody that comes from a foreign country, say at 8 years old, they can grow up and not have an accent. After a certain age, you're always going to have the accent from that country. And I learned this through a program I was watching about Arnold Schwarzenegger. He came over here a little too late, and he's stuck with that accent. That is it Austrian or German? Well, anyway, that's one of those things in life. You're like, holy crap. Someone says, yeah, if that person comes over when they're 5 years old, they'll grow up. They can speak both languages, but they don't have an accent. And you're like, holy crap. But there are people that have skills and colors. You lay out certain colors, and the person starts naming the colors, and you're looking at it like, well, that's green. No, John, that's teal. And I'm like, but to me it's green. Yeah, but it's called teal. And they can tell you all the different shades of green with the names, and you're lucky that it's green to you. No, it's teal. And the same with when I was younger, I could tell turquoise, and turquoise is between I think you mix blue and green, and you get turquoise. And some people they can tell you the level of the turquoise, whether it's closer to blue or to green. I can't do that. I don't have that skill set. My eyeballs can see the color, but I can't really calibrate and say, yeah, this one's more blue than green. It looks different to me, but there's people that can actually look at it and say, that's got more blue in it. And I'm standing there like, well, that ship has sailed on me. And that's one of the things in life you have to learn, that you have a certain skill set. And it comes down to the Kenny Rogers song. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. And what that song's about is everybody's dealt cards. And then, every hand's a winner, every hand's a loser. What to get rid of, what to keep, that's card playing. But in life, you're dealt certain cards, and that's it. And you can work around things pretty good. And there are, in my case, there are meters you can buy that you pointed at the color, and it basically tells me it's got more blue in it than green. There are ways that I got lucky. Now, I was never good at math, but you might see in my video that really good calculator that I bought at the yard sale for $5. The battery connector down by the motherboard was never soldered. So sometimes when you turn that calculator on, you had to tap it to get it to start working. And one day I just got so mad that I took it totally apart, and I went a little further, and I found out it was never soldered when it was made. And I soldered it, it's worked ever since. But when the calculator came out, that allowed me to go into different areas that I never was able to go into. Now, I told you in one of the stories, I was able to convert regular decimal number into binary, into hexadecimal. With the Windows available, the calculator in there can do that. And that made my life even easier. But everybody's got stuff they're really good at. And then other people don't have that skill, but they have something else. And it always killed me that the people that could pick up a guitar and learn to play it, and learn the notes, and memorize the notes, and recall the notes, I really don't like doing it anymore. How could you not want to be able to play a guitar? But they just, I got kind of tired of it. And I'm sitting there, you always want to be able to play guitar. And you buy one, and then you realize how hard it is. And when I got my guitar, I was 27 years old. It's too late by then. You learn the notes. When you look at the note on a piece of paper, you can look at the staff, and you say, yeah, it's a B, that's an A. But when you have to play it fast, it's the same thing as Morse code all over again. You just got certain skills that are missing, and it keeps coming back to bite you in the ass, and you can't fix them. At a certain age, you can't fix the problem. And that's the frustrating thing I have. Like programming. I got really good at BASIC, and then I used a compiler, and nobody could notice how bad my code was. Well, anyway, the Morse code thing, I built it from scratch. This little module unit with an Arduino, and it was going too fast. So I looked through the code, and I'm like, okay, this section, that section, and I located the guy, and all I said to him, how do I slow it down? Three different, I think there was 5 words in that sentence. Before I said to him, hope you can help me, blah, blah, blah. How do I slow this thing down? So all he did was tell me what line of code and what number, he told me what line of code, and then I could see it was set for 15 words a minute. I went in there, put 5. He did say it might be quirky when you slow it down, because anyway, I was able to slow it down, and I was able to start learning code, but I'm not fast enough. And at a certain age, you just can't learn that. So when you retire, you're like, my father was a good example of it. He bought himself an organ. Or I won't call it a keyboard. It was an organ. It was electronic. It used neon bulbs for the oscillators. And he starts wondering every day, I come home from work, he's retired. And he's like, I'm having really trouble. And he starts putting numbers on the keys, like our old, what the hell was it, SD organ. And he goes, I said, Dad, you're too old. And he's looking at me, what do you mean I'm too old? You're too old to learn a new skill like that. That's a real hard skill, and you got to stay with it. Well, I learned how to play the violin when I was a kid. Did you continue to play the violin? And then I got the music book out. Show me EBC, or every boy, every good boy deserves favor. Face, FACE. He's looking at me like I'm crazy. I said, no, seriously. Show me the staff and show me where each note is. I can't do that. I said, well, what you learned as a kid, you already forgot. It's gone. And he's looking at me. It's not coming back. And he couldn't understand that. See, I can understand that, boy. You tell me to hold 5 numbers in my head in sequence and then repeat them back. I know right away I'm doomed. I'm doomed. And I'm at a Five Guys Burger with my friend Jim, and he asked me how old was my sister when she died, and I got the 3 sets of numbers in my head, and I'm like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't figure out how old she was when she died, but I knew I outlived her by total 8 years. All I had to take was 8 years off my age, and it wasn't coming out right. And then we got talking about the Abbott and Costello routine, where Abbott tells Lou about the girl. She's only 15 years old, and Lou's like 45. You wait 10 years. Now Lou, she seems like she's catching up to Lou. First, she's like 3 times younger than Lou. Then she's twice as old as young as Lou. And then Bud Abbott says to Lou, how many years does it take before you and her are the same age? It's a routine. It's a vaudeville routine. And Jim brings this up, and I'm laughing. I'm going, yeah, and there was the one where he adds the cookies, and he adds them the wrong way, and he's feeding the whole ship with 37 cookies or whatever it was. And that's the thing with math. See, Jim's got his master's in math, and I don't. And he's good at math. And then, but I have other ways around it. I get a piece of paper, I get my favorite calculator out, and I figured out that my sister was 70 years old when she died. I lived to 72, so I outlived her by 2 years. You could say we outlived her 6 plus 2, but that's where the problem comes in. I lived longer than her by 2 years. I'm 72, she died at 70. But you can also say that there was 6 years between the two of us, and I outlived her by 8 years. But I really didn't. You have to get up to the person's age and then outlive them. And I outlived my sister by 2 years so far because she was a heavy smoker. She died from smoking, just like her mother, just like her grandfather, just like almost everybody on my mother's side of the family. But you have skill sets. At a certain age, you're not going to acquire any new ones. You're going to be able to work with what you already have. But you retire and you're like, well, I'm going to take this up, or I'm going to take that up. All right, you take up golf. Can you swing a club? Can you? Or your rotator cuff bad? You're going to be pulling muscles in your back. Where do you see this stuff? And I tell people, and they just look at me like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. 3 weeks later, I can't swing the golf club. Well, if you never swung a golf club through your life, the fluid motion of doing it. I did it when I was younger. I had a 9-iron. I had a driver. I can't do it anymore. My muscles are tense. As I try to swing, I can do it slowly, but to do it fast and to be able to hit that ball, I can pull muscles. And when you get older, you're going to walk by a basketball court and you're going to pick the ball up. And you might get away with it. You might take some shots, and the next morning you wake up and you're fine. But you might wake up with a rotator cuff. You tore it. Yeah, this is the crap that happens to you when you get older. But skill sets, you develop them when you're younger. And as you get older, you hang on to some of it. You build on it. And that's who you are. And other people think they're going to learn all this stuff like my father. He was going to learn how to play an organ when he was retired. And then when I was putting in front of him the music staff, and like, what does that mean? Well, you need that. You're not going to bullshit me and say, well, I really don't need that. I'll just memorize the song. And he tried to do that. He couldn't do that either because uh, you got to remember the notes in sequence and then and basically play the sequence back. And that's hard to do even when you're younger. These guys that can play music have a different brain than the rest of us. And they become bored very easily. And you and I say, man, I'd give anything to be able to play guitar. They can do it, and they don't want to do it anymore. And it's hilarious. And you look at a guy that without thinking, when you used to play catch, there were guys that were really really good. They rarely missed the ball or dropped it. They hit the ball. We had guys. I played baseball with guys that we had to tell them, if you hit the ball too far, you got to replace it because we ain't going to be able to find it. And one of them was Bruce Benson. He was on I think he said three different softball leagues. And we went to a field one time with 5 softballs. And in no time at all, Bruce put them in the woods. And we never found any of them. We had to go home. From then on, I'd say, Bruce, don't hit it as far. Or we put someone back in the woods to possibly see where the ball came down. But he was also the guy where we would be walking into McGraw Edison, and he'd say, "Pick a window out." I'm not talking a factory where the windows close by. I'm talking I won't say more than 100 feet. He said, "Pick a window out." It was the building they were going to knock it down. I'd pick a window. He'd pick a rock up, throw it right through that freaking window. I couldn't even reach the damn window. Okay, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I can at least reach through. No. This guy could snap his arm, and his arm was longer than mine. I have a long arm. I'm 6'1". This guy was 6'4", and his arms were disproportionately longer. And he could whip that rock, and man, it would be like a missile. And another skill set I didn't have. And there's so many things in life. You go into it, and when you're younger, you can work around certain things. But other people, they got the skill. They have the gift. And you're sitting there and you're practicing. And this guy, I'll give you an example of it. Richard Korinsky. We're in school, and we're in a typing class. I took typing, and he's typing to music. And I'm typing along with him, but I'm typing nonsense. He gets done. He pulls the paper out of the typewriter, walks up and hands it to the teacher. So I tried doing that. Couldn't do it. I could barely type. I got up to 30-something words a minute without mistakes. And my sister was a typing teacher, and she was so tired of typing, she couldn't do 30 words a minute without mistakes. And whenever I needed something typed, she'd dictate it to her students. They'd type it. She'd bring the perfect papers home. That's how I did my resumes. But she was so bored with typing, she didn't care anymore. And that's how my sister was. You didn't give her anything to do because it wasn't going to be done right. But certain people like Richard, he played the trumpet. He could type out what he needed to type. And the other thing too is my spelling skills were really bad. So you got a page in the typing book, and I had to keep looking at the book to know what letters to push on the typewriter. Well, other people they memorize 5 words at a time. And I'm there, bip, 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 bip. I understood that. I know where my skills are and where my skills aren't. And I also know what's going to frustrate me. That's why, like I tell you, with this gear thing, in my younger days, I would file out a gear. And I'd spend the whole day doing it. If I made a mistake, I'd start it all over again. But I don't want that. I want that gear. I did the work. I want the gear. I want to put it in the radio and have it done. But I just wanted to tell you about skill sets. And when you're a certain age, you're not going to add to it. You got to develop your skill sets at an early age. You have to stay with them. Like I said, my father claimed he could play the violin when he was younger. And then suddenly he's looking at the music notes like it's a foreign language. I kind of think he was embellishing what he was able to do. You know, he might have had the method where they show you where to put the fingers on the violin. You take a few lessons. The instructor gives the parents he ain't ever going to learn behind your back, and then you don't take the lessons anymore. I think that's more of the real true story, because I think you would at least remember the notes. Every good boy deserves favor, FACE. I think that's it. All right, that's it.